Welcome to the 19.9 podcast with HVS. I'm Aaron Meyer. My co-host is Josh Barnett, one of the owners of 19.9, a retro college apparel company. On today's episode, we're going to wrap up the summer with more playground stories and basketball camp stories, but let's get started with Fish. Before we get to the main topics today, I want to talk just a little bit about where we're sitting. First time we're doing this live and in person. I'm excited to be in the basement here. It's like the Guggenheim of basketball posters, or like the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. I was picturing this morning on my drive in, coming here. This museum sits on a hill in Los Angeles. It's amazing. But in the basement of that building is the photography section, and we're in the basement here, and there are just amazing posters all over the place, and shorts and apparel too. So I want to throw it up to Josh. Tell us a little bit about where we're sitting again, and then I know you got some housekeeping stuff too.
Yeah, so this is our spot, and we're happy to have you down here for the first time, and it's fun to sit across the table from you and do this together in person instead of over the internet like we normally do from our houses. So this is our new spot, and I wanted to decorate it. I wanted to give it the college basketball historic feel down here, and I wanted to represent a lot of the teams that we currently have licenses with and some of our experiences. And so as you kind of look around, you'll see that, and we'll get some photography taken. We'll get some pictures up. We'll get some social media posted, and I already took a good one of Aaron earlier. So we'll get some pictures up and show you guys what we're working with down here. But we got one more piece we're waiting on is our podcast table. So
yes.
We're doing this from a makeshift table right now.
I saw the preview of the other one, and the one today, though, about fell apart when we had to move it for power purposes.
Yeah, we're gonna get Eichhoff down here next time we get together, and we should have everything put together, nice. And we'll have him take some pictures and put that on our Instagram story. So
I love it.
We will give you guys a sneak peek to what we're working with down here.
Well, what else you got? I know you said you had a few other just kind of things you wanted to shout out.
Yeah, so we basically tested our podcast to a beta group, aka our friends, with the playground stories, because those are the people that kind of connect with the stories that we were telling and the places that we were at, and I just wanted to get some feedback from them, and I got some really good feedback on the podcast. And I thought that it was funny because a lot of the women that we sent it to that gave us some feedback thought for sure when you say let's turn it over to Fish that like the band Fish was gonna come on.
Also, I might do that at some point.
Yeah, so like some people were super disappointed that it was Don Fisher and not Fish the band, and then I had a couple other people text me and just say like, what the hell Fish song is this? Like where'd you guys get this from? This is bad.
Fish is taking a real turn.
Yeah. So anyways, that's for our listeners, that's Don Fisher, legendary voice of IU basketball, who calls games for the radio, and everybody around here knows Fish. Yeah. And so just to kind of clear that up. And I do have a Don Fisher story too.
Good.
Do you want to hear it?
Oh, duh. Fisher is an amazing announcer, first of all. That dude's a legend.
So I was playing in the University of Indianapolis alumni golf scramble. This was several years ago. And the long drive hole, I can't remember where it was at. We were at Otter Creek, which is super nice. If you've never played there before, it's awesome. And it was a big dog leg, but you could cut a lot of it off just taking on the trees. So I just swung as hard as I could, like I always do, and just took off probably 60 yards of the hole, just going over the trees because I can hit a high ball, one thing I can do, and just cutting it. I mean, just blistered it. So the group I was with was like, holy shit, dude, you're going to win the long drive. Like, there's nobody that's going to be close to that. And so went up there, put my name on it, went back to the clubhouse after a few more holes and sitting in there, and Don Fisher walks in, a big old stogie in his mouth, which shocked me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got a voice like that.
Or excited.
It wasn't lit, though.
Excited you.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm a big cigar guy. Shout out to my boy Kenny Anderson on that, too. And so he walks in with this big old stogie, and I'm like, oh, shit, that's Don Fisher. You know, that's pretty cool that he's playing. And so they get in there like, the long drive winner on 13 is Don Fisher. Somehow, that son of a bitch outdrove me.
With the stogie in his mouth?
I'm assuming so. Somehow he beat me on that, and I always wanted to kind of like ask him, like, "Hey, did you tee off from the senior tees?"
Yeah.
Or you know, that,
you can't do that though.
you can't do it.
That.
It was just a mutual respect of like,
that's right.
Hey man, I just got beat by Don Fisher. That's a cool story. Maybe I'll tell that story sometime.
That's a good story.
On the pot.
I love that one. I love that.
So yeah, but we got that, and then we got some feedback on the playground stuff, and I know you had some people comment and stuff, and was there anything that you wanted to kind of bring up with the playground stuff, or kind of put a capper on it now that we're here towards the real end of summer, although it feels like the middle of the summer
I know,
out there.
yeah, it's about 110 in Evansville. I had to ask you, there's a few things I wrote down. One of them was Stephen Curry, who I would say is probably the most famous NBA player right now, got big ups this summer. He went to Oakland to a random court and play pickup ball with these dudes. And if you guys haven't seen that YouTube video, it is incredible because he is like doing Steph Curry stuff on the playground, and then a couple guys get him and like hit a three in his face, and the people are going bananas.
That's awesome. I gotta look that up.
Yeah, it was incredible. So I thought I had to shout that out because I saw somebody else post something about it, watched it, and I was blown away. And then I was listening to Steve Nash, and I bring this up because I want to at least get a quick take from you about USA basketball.
Oh, okay.
Because I think it relates back to college, because maybe we should be using the college players instead of these guys. Awesome. But he thinks that he was talking about that. Actually, that's where I heard about the Steph Curry thing. He was talking about him playing on the playground, and he thinks that it's the options that are killing the like Team USA or just, you know, pickup basketball or playground basketball. It's just that there's so much to do now for kids these days. Like how many things did you have to do during this summer? Like when you woke up in the morning, like what were your options? Like I didn't have cable TV for a long time, and then it was like, what else is there, you know? And so he thinks part of the reason that the playground game is going away is that kids just have too many choices, and you need that like cohesive group to consistently show up there, if you're not going to just like plan around it. And if you're planning around it, why not go to a gym, basically?
I think that's a really fair point, and you're not wrong. And we deal with kids every day. We know that our kids have a million different options and so many things going on that we never had. But I also think that it's the emphasis on personal training and working out with specific groups, and that crosses all socioeconomic classes. It doesn't matter, rich or poor, people are spending money on youth sports, period.
Yeah.
And they're getting them in, and they're trying to get them with the best trainers and the one-on-one stuff, and that's all done in a gym as opposed to just getting out and working on your game by yourself. And you hear, I mean, our kids at school, you know, the ones that are serious about basketball, they want to work out, but they want to work out in the gym.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't find a gym in the summers. You know, are you guys going to be around school that you can let me in? And we try to work with those kids to do that, but we don't have a consistent summer schedule. But it's like, what is the emphasis on getting in the gym when there's hundreds of basketball hoops around the city that you can go to?
Isn't that what happened with Team USA, though, right? They didn't go to play for the country because they were where? It's not like they're not playing basketball. They're in a gym somewhere playing basketball. They just don't want to do it that way,
too.
Right? Like they're doing the workout videos
Let's see what happens with the Olympics.
Yeah.
So if they start bowing out of the Olympics, then the discussion happens.
Yeah, so that's where I was bringing up, like, back to college basketball was, do we just send – because, like, the expectation with the pros is that if we don't win, it's a huge, like, like disappointment. Like, oh my gosh.
Did you think that team was?
No, I didn't.
Exactly.
They had 2 All-Stars, 1 All-NBA guy.
Exactly.
So, but it's still like perception. They had never lost 2 games in a row, 68 straight. It just seems like, oh my gosh, what a failure. They're the worst team in USA basketball history now. They finished 7th place, I think, something like that. So that's embarrassing.
Well, you and I talked the other night, and I think it was through text that we were talking, and it would be awesome to see college guys.
Yeah.
But those college guys become NBA guys so quickly now that you're probably not sending your best, even if you put together a college team, because you're not putting those. Zion Williamson probably wouldn't have been on the team coming into his freshman year. You know what I mean? But then after his freshman year, he was a pro, but he wasn't going to play because so many pros don't play.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like if you had those guys like Jordan, Danny Manning, David Robinson, the old school group that we had, those were the guys that we were sending.
Yeah.
So we were sending not like these rookie guys in the NBA, but we were sending guys that are now in the age group of the third-year pros.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Maybe if the one-and-done rule goes away, though, that there'll be some more availability for those guys. The only other thing I heard that was decent was that maybe you get like a group of guys that aren't necessarily NBA guys, but make them like Team USA, so they're together for a long time. Imagine like Jordan Halls and like some people who are like over in Europe who are just
that would be interesting, but that wouldn't sell, and they need USA basketball to sell.
That's true. I hadn't even considered.
I mean, you're not going out to buy a Jordan Halls.
I know.
USA
Well,
jersey.
I am.
Some of us would, and that's not a knock on Halls or any of those
that's
guys.
Pretty good.
But
I know what you're saying.
But the one point that you brought up there that kind of touched on something I wanted to talk about too was a text I got from my buddy JP Claiborne after he listened to the Playground blog, and he was around for a lot of those games, although he missed the bow and arrow game by about 5 minutes. You were talking about Steve Nash saying that there has to be a dedicated group, a group that's always there, that's going to be there for the playground thing.
Right, because you have to know when you're going to show up.
That's something that it never clicked with me. That Gulfmore game was never our game.
Yeah.
It was the old man's game.
But there were always people there.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It wasn't us, though.
Yeah.
We weren't the ones that were orchestrating it. We weren't the ones that were organizing it. We just knew what time they were playing because they invited us.
Right.
So it was almost like an invitation thing.
Yeah.
And so what JP texted me was, he said, something you need to think about is going up there, setting a standard of time and day, and start playing. Get your group, however big it may be, to start, and see if the kids start showing up after a group is there and established, and people are seeing a group being up there established and playing.
Yeah.
And that's something I never thought
Some people definitely would.
For sure.
Because I used to, wherever I was, like drive by different playgrounds. Like when I first got to California and I didn't have a gym to play in, or when I got to Jasper in the summer, because I didn't have any group to play with. So I just show up, like go by the park in the evening and see if there were people out there playing. And the first people I connected with were at the park there. There were just people out playing at the park, and I ended up with, but they ended up then going to a gym later, and then the park has since died off, so it just was like a random group of people, and I think it's tough to initially organize and then tough to sustain, because you need that core. Like I think that's what you're saying, is that you need that core group, and to get 10 or even to get like guys that are willing to just play 3-on-3, and then maybe you get 10 sometimes, it's tough, because I only play like once a week or twice a week now, Like
in retrospect, and I know that you know how much I love Gulfmore and those guys from Gulfmore and all that stuff. Like they're it for me.
Yeah.
After talking to JP or texting with JP, I had like an even greater appreciation for him, if that's even possible. I'm serious, because those guys were consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, consistently every Saturday, and then sometimes on Sunday.
Yeah.
Every Saturday, knew. Yeah, and I can't remember what it was, 10-2 or 11-2 or something like that. I can't remember what the start time, but we knew it, and we knew when we showed up, people would be there.
Yeah,
and that there's something to be said for that, because if they weren't there, it would have just been me and Wes playing 1-on-1.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You guys would have been there though. Still would
have been there, because we showed up there even when people weren't there, but worked on our game.
Right. But I'm saying, like, you need, like, I don't even know if that's there anymore. Like, are there even any people at the parks anymore?
You know, I have a kid in my neighborhood that goes to Gulfmore. That went to Gulfmore almost every day by himself.
That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that.
And I always would try to talk to him when he's walking back because I wanted to like talk about Gulfmore stuff. And he always thought I was like the old weird white dude on the porch, like wanting to talk basketball.
Were you in a minivan as well?
Oh yeah, no, a minivan was parked out front.
The windows, yep, check. Okay, I'm not talking to this guy.
But speaking of the playgrounds, I want to talk a little bit about what 99 has going on with 5-Star, and then that can kind of lead into.
I'm excited to hear about this.
That can kind of lead into our basketball camp stuff. So, Peter Robert Casey, a friend of 199, a buddy of mine. Well, friends just through the business side of things, just kind of connected or whatever. He hit me up a few weeks ago, and they're putting together an outdoor camp. So they're getting back to their roots. So 5-Star started in 1966, and it was Howard Garfinkel.
Yeah.
They had legendary players: Lenny Bias, Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. I mean, everybody who's who of basketball has gone through that camp. And then on the flip side, coaches too. So you had
everybody,
Knight and Pitino and Calipari and Hubie Brown, who's one of my all-time favorite.
If people haven't Googled like those photos too, they are awesome. I mean,
PRC,
such like piece of Americana history, right?
It truly is. PRC sent me a bunch of stuff about a year and a half ago or so. This has been in the works for a long time, and he sent me a bunch of pictures, and one of them was Jordan and Bias jumping up for a jump ball to start a game. And this is just in a playground in upstate New York.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, just
all outdoors.
Outside, yeah.
So, anyways, they're doing the camp, and the camp is September 21st. And it's from 9 to 12 at East River Park in Manhattan. And they're doing it. They selected 20 kids off of 2 different teams that were maybe didn't have the money to go to a 5-star camp, through the summer and stuff. And so 99 was able to do the old vintage. I gave you one, so you know what I'm talking about. Man. But I'm talking to the audience now.
Had it on immediately.
But we got to do the orange throwback 5-star shirts. And when you put that on or when you look at it and you know the feeling because you have one, and if you know the history of it, it's a super proud thing.
Oh,
so
man.
It's awesome that 5-Star and Slam are doing that. I appreciate PRC for letting us be a very, very small part of it, and we just sent those shirts off. So, it's going to be cool. So we should have some photography and stuff coming to us from the Slam guys and the 5-Star guys that we'll get out on social media and kind of promote it a little bit too.
Love it. So the other big thing we want to talk about was just basketball camp stories. Just what I know that it's not the same kind of, it seems like the playground game has that nostalgia for you, but like for me, basketball camp was also an integral part of the summer because, and I wrote down something about Greg Popovich because I felt like camp, this is kind of how camp fit in for me. Like he always is able to take a player and get the best out of them. When you're on your high school team or your AAU team, you tend to have like a predefined role. Like this is who you are. This is what we need you to do. But you show up at basketball camp and it's just like whatever collection of dudes. So and then all of a sudden it's like it's like showing up at college as a freshman. You can almost like redefine who you are. Are you like the party dude now? Are you like the score? That was for me. And so Popovich, especially if you get like a good coach at a camp, can like turn you, like open things up to you that you didn't even realize were inside you. So like he will have Derek White looking like an all-star, and you're like, who is Derek White, and why have I never heard of him before? Or whoever they have, DeJounte Murray, and all these Spurs guys that Patty Mills, that didn't make it anywhere, and then when they leave there, they're not anything either. And so the 2 things I loved about it were like being able to redefine yourself, and then having other people there who would just look at your skill set and see it from a different angle. Like your coaches in high school or on your AU team, like almost slot you in based on who they have because they kind of understand. But it's so quick at basketball camp that you have to just kind of watch whatever and then kind of imagine what you could do with it. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's way better than anything I wrote down. Just keep going.
I'm not deep and long about this.
Golly, that was good. No, that's that you hit on some really interesting things I'd never thought about with camps. That's exactly right. And I guess I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I've always been, I don't know if alarmed is the right word, but I've always been like perplexed as to why high school coaches predetermine what is going to be what with certain players.
Yeah.
Because so many kids blossom at different times. So many kids become something else. So many kids develop something that others maybe don't. But it's like the high school coaches have in their head, like, this is who you are and what you're going to be for my team. And don't almost suppress the development of a player. Yeah. And I've never understood that. Like, okay, I can tell you right now who the 5 best 8th graders are at this school.
Right.
Okay? But the chances are 1, maybe 2 of them are going to be your best players by the time you reach senior year.
For sure. Almost definitely.
Why do we zone in on these kids being the greatest of the great where maybe we're deterring some of the other ones behind them? Like, the coach loves that dude. Like, why am I going to work hard for that coach if he already is picked?
Well, it's probably about wins and losses, and that's why it's cool. Again, I'm coming back to the playground thing where, you still want to win, but you can, you take different approaches because it's just a different setting, right? Like, I think that when you get to the high school, like, they want to win, so they go with what they know, or they, like, have this system in place, and they just find the guys that fit their system rather than taking this guy and, like, reimagining, being like, you're not the best at this. I got 2 guys that are better, even though you're good at that, but you might be better than them at this. Let's blow out this skill, and I'm going to make you into, whatever. And I think that, again, Popovich does that better than anybody, where he's just like, Patty Mills doesn't fit on these 22 teams, but he does this one thing, and I'm going to blow that out, and he's going to be awesome for us.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting, but the analogy or bringing that back to the basketball camp side of things of you're just thrown into this mix and you have no clue where you fit in. And it is one of the most overwhelming feelings, even if you know you're good.
Yeah.
So even if you know you're good, you literally have no clue how good anybody else is.
Yeah, you don't have it. You don't know. You're looking around like
no clue.
Yeah.
And all you want to do is really like fit in before you start busting people's asses.
For sure.
Like you got to fit in.
Because you're going back to the dorm later.
Oh, exactly. So you have to blend. You have to fit in.
Yeah.
You have to talk. You have to come out of your shell a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's always just an overwhelming experience, man. No matter how old you are.
No doubt.
It doesn't matter.
So do you have any stories like from the camps that you went to?
I went to I think his name was Dick Baumgartner shooting camp.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was in Rolls-Holman.
Solid name already.
Yeah. And there was nothing. I mean, the one thing I did well is shoot the ball.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know why I was at not to sound vain at all, but the last thing I needed to go was to like a shooting camp. I needed to go to like a quickness and agility and speed camp.
Where's the strength shoes camp where all we do is strength shoes?
Are you sure you don't want to throw me into a defensive skills camp? Because my coaches would probably appreciate that shit a lot more.
Just a week of defensive slides.
Yeah, exactly. Just lane slides, buddy. That's all you're going to do for a week. But I remember sitting there, and we went with some of my AAU buddies. I can't remember how old I was, maybe freshman year. And we were sitting there, and gum fell out of somebody's mouth. This is before we ever even got in the gymnasium. So we got into our dorms. I think I was rooming with Derek Graham. We got into our dorms. You had to walk down like a hill to get to the gymnasium.
Yeah.
And so we were all sitting there because they hadn't let anybody in because they were setting up how they were going to let us in and where everybody's going to go. And I cannot remember who it is. It might have been your buddy Chris Gunn, actually, because I'm pretty sure he was there. Ask him when you see him.
Okay.
But somebody's gum like dropped out of their mouth and landed on their arm, as they were talking.
Yeah.
And so they just took it and flicked it and went straight into my hair, dude. Straight into my hair, and I'm like, I felt
hair
something.
Too. You're probably upset about that.
I had short hair back then, but it was right on top, and I felt something. And so, I just immediately grabbed it, tangled the shit all in the hair. And so, here I am, like we were just talking about how overwhelming it is to try to fit in stuff, and I just have like this bird nest of gum in my, and I had no choice. Yeah. Couldn't go back to the dorm. Had to go into the gym and play the entire first night with this big ass ball of gum wrapped in my hair.
Perfect start to your camp.
Is that where you thought I was going to go with that?
I did not, but I love it.
Only thing I remember from the whole camp. That's it. I remember nothing else.
I can see why. That would be traumatic. I got one so we went to this camp in Pennsylvania, and I don't know if anybody's seen the new HBO show, The Righteous Gemstones, but it was incredible because it's like this family. So and I was trying hard to find the name of it, so I'm gonna have to get with my buddy from my hometown, Bill, who went with me. But the dad comes out, and he's this old man, big guy, and they do all their like speeches to the campers while they're doing something, and it was unbelievable. So this guy's, I don't know how old he was. He seemed like 100 when at the time we were like sophomores in high school, so we weren't to like a select camp yet. We were just like one that we paid for and went to. He comes out shooting jumpers from like just inside the 3-point line while he's talking to us for half an hour and doesn't miss. Like, I'm like, what is happening? Who are you? Who is? And I don't know. This guy's never played pro. So then, like, the next day, the son comes out and he does like ball handling drills while he's talking to us, and he's like 2 balls, 3 balls behind his back, crazy stuff. And we're like, this is unbelievable. And then they bring out like the son's kid, and he's doing like stuff too. So this whole family, and they do the speeches to the campers. But that was a fun camp, just like a random one that we went to, but just ended up being really a good level of competition for where we were at, and just crazy watching this family kind of run this circus.
I would be interested to know of our listeners how many people ran into families like that at basketball camps. I swear to God, they're everywhere.
Yeah, probably.
I mean,
they are. Yeah.
Legitimately are everywhere. Yeah. Where you're just like, what? And then what happens to those kids?
I don't know.
Like, where do they go?
Yeah, I don't know. If I could find, when I find the name of the camp, I'll do some more investigating. I'll report back, because there has to have been like, did that kid go to college?
It's either
he's like 11 and was the best ball handler that I'd ever seen. I was like, what's happening? I'm never going to go in.
Now he's probably just like a bum drunk on the street, but like, and still like, if you toss him a basketball, just take it, just go, just muscle memory. What would be funny is it seems like those families were everywhere, but it would be better if it was legitimately just that family that you saw like going everywhere.
Out of the country, like they had their little camper van showed up everywhere.
Oh, that's funny. No, the one I went to a couple consistently, but the one like the most proud moment one I had was I went to a top 100 basketball camp for 8th graders. And so it was the top 100 8th graders in the state of Indiana, and it was run by it wasn't run by IHSAA, but it was run by the people that select the Indiana All-Stars.
Okay.
So it was legit. There was legit talent there, and so it was one of those things where feel where you got to figure out where you fit in. Mm-hmm. And rooming across the hall from me was Jason Gardner, who went to Arizona.
Solid.
Yeah, and he was a stud. And that dude was like he was little, but he was a man.
Yeah,
a super strong dude. And I was the exact opposite. I was tall and skinny, and all that. And so I remember we played games. So we did some skills stuff, and then we played games every night. And there was a schedule, and then your team had a record, and there were standings, and there was everything, and our team ended up doing pretty well, but everybody like sweated Gardner there, like obviously for great reason, because he was amazing. He was just coming from the USA basketball camp, and stuff, so he's wearing like those jerseys around and stuff. And
you're like,
we were like Wrights High School shit. We weren't even in high school, we thought that was cool.
Exactly.
And so I remember the schedule. You played one half-court game was on your schedule because they only had X amount of courts. And so I remember looking to see what team Gardner was on, and then I looked, and luckily he was our half-court game. So because I knew they were going to put me on him, and I was like, dude, I can't guard this guy full court. And so they put us in a half-court setting, and I was able to do okay because he couldn't get out in transition. So I just like held him and fouled him the whole time.
Oh my God.
And then at the end of the camp, we both made the top 12 of the camp and got like a trophy and certain stuff. So that was like super cool. And then my basketball career pretty much went down.
That was the end of it. You gotta
can't take that away from
high
me.
watermark. That's all right. That's all right. So I had one more, and I think people will relate to this, hopefully, too. I think basketball camps are an amazing place to, like, interact with other cultures. So I know you're from Evansville, but I'm from an even smaller town in Indiana. And so it was about, like, getting out. It was better than getting car keys for the first time, because when I get in my car, I'm still just driving around my town.
Yeah, right.
But one of the ones we went to then my junior year, and this isn't, like, so I don't even know how I ended up at this camp, but one of our guys on the team, who's a coach now at the college level, was an Indiana All-Star. So it was like not the ABC camp,
right,
but it was just below that. Like you had to be invited to it. And so he was invited to that. And then there was another camp at the same time, probably because they could share staff, that you could again like go to. I think our coach, like because he was going, coach like talked to us into the slightly lower version of it. But it was in Cincinnati, at the University of Cincinnati, and it was just, I mean, I don't know if you've been there before, but it's in, like, not the best part of town.
Gotcha.
And we stayed in the dorms and just, like, would leave at night, and my parents would be horrified to know that we would just, like, walk out and be wandering, going to Taco John's, and we thought that was amazing.
So amazing. Because it was.
Yeah, and this is what I remember about the camp. Not the basketball, which I'm sure I loved at the time, but it was getting to go to Taco John's at, like, midnight and walking around Cincinnati. So I think that was an awesome part of the camps too,
because you could find some bad parts of Cincinnati.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was not.
It's
not, and it, like I mean, I don't know now, but then it's certainly for a guy from a small town in Indiana was like
not the place. Yeah,
you're
around.
like, what are we doing right now? And you know the people. I'm sure the RA or whoever was supposed to be in charge of our floor not paying attention.
Did not care.
So
that's funny, man. Yeah, good times, man. That's like just like the playground stuff. It's like the part of your youth that you're just like, man, remember when we just got to play basketball and hang out with our buddies?
No doubt. That's why I'm still buying retro college apparel, because I get to wear it, and every time I wear it, I fall
right into our wheelhouse.
Yes, might be your target demographic.
Yeah, exactly.
May or may not.
All right, well, is that going to do it here? Wrap it up from down here?
I think that's it, unless you got anything else.
I don't, but I do appreciate you coming down here. We'll try to get down here more often and do this from here.
What's you want to tell about the idea potentially for the next couple that you got emailed? Because I'm assuming that we're going to do that next.
I do not know the ideas for the next.
You do. You were telling me last night about the email you got.
Oh, from Joe? Yeah, we're going to try to have our buddy Joe, who works at the NBA.
Yeah.
He might be our first guest on and kind of co-host it with us. And he was looking at putting together a list of great college players that didn't make it in the NBA and then just kind of discussing why we thought they didn't make it and how good they were in college and things like that. So we'll get to that one. I don't know if that'll be the next one or how quickly we'll get to it, but that was an idea. But we'll have something for next week.
I think too the other, maybe talking about the retro rewind or however you want to brand it for like what that is, because I think that'll be a reoccurring one coming up too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you just want to.
Well, yeah, we have the TV here. We got this playback game that's on NBA TV right now going. So we thought that maybe it'd be cool to watch some old games, some old college games down here. I was watching the 99 UConn Duke game down here while I was packing orders the other day, just because I was curious as to that game being played out, because I was doing some research for some 99 stuff on it, and so it kind of just got me curious. So we might sit down here and watch a couple games and just comment on it.
Going to. So two things that if no one's heard of the Rewatchables, it's on the Ringer podcast network, and then One Shining Podcast. They kind of tried to do a version of that. They're not anymore, because I don't know exactly how it fell apart, but their version was 2 hours, so we won't do one. We won't do one that's longer than the game itself.
Right.
But I think that...
But we could.
We could, for sure. But we did like some blogs, too, this summer looking at some games, so you can check those out. And I think that the idea is that it's so cool to look back at these games because you see the style of play, you see the style of the players, and just get a feel of just like going to a basketball camp in a different city or playing on the playground with a different group of guys. You see basketball from a different angle, especially if you haven't seen the game in a long time, that particular game in a long time, or maybe you never have. I mean, I watched some of the ones that you sent me this summer, and I was like, I don't think I ever even saw that game in real time, because it's just impossible to watch all the great games that have ever happened. You kind of know what happened, maybe, or the story around it, but not never seen it.
It might be fun to get down here for some live games too. I know we talked about doing that for conference tournaments and March Madness and stuff, but if we get down for like a big game on a weekend, come down here and sit and do a pod as the game's going on too. So there's a lot of different things we can do. We have a home now.
I know, right?
Feels so good.
Feels so good. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it.
And we're out.
Thank you for listening to the 19.9 podcast with HVS, the High Volume Shooters. For more information, check out the blog at 19.9.com under HVS. And while you're there, do yourself a favor and pick up some retro college shorts. Till next time.